Do you now on your what is your? I just sent you a text of what my screen looks like.
Okay, my screen doesn't look like that.
Well, obviously I have a background, but but about two windows, because you'll have to tell your Skype to look at my window, basically.
Okay. Well.
So on that OSB or whatever, OBS, there's sources.
Yep.
There's a for Skype, or I believe it's actually what do they call that? I think it's under media source.
I prematurely hit live, so bear with me here, guys. Media source, okay. I got the video source, and I hit plus. Which one am I picking though?
Does it? I can't remember. It's been a few weeks since I set this up. Does it bring up Skype?
No.
My son's asleep who helped me set this up, so I can't remember.
I've got browser, display capture, image, jack, media source.
Go to media source.
Okay. Okay. Where's the local file? No, it's not.
Buddy, I'm out of luck on this one as far as like I said, it's been a while since I set this up.
All right. I guess we'll just roll it as is.
All right. Well, let me go live on mine.
Crunky Trunks. I like that. What's going on, Wayne?
What is going on, everybody? It's your buddy Dave with the Nissan Nation Podcast. And if we get all these errors that we had Sunday out of the way, we will we'll do a chat here. I know Nick's new to streaming, so we're trying to stop.
Yeah, bear with us here, guys. It's going to be the first run for us, so we'll see how it goes.
Right. So Nick, how is Las Vegas when there's a pandemic going on?
Oh, Las Vegas is interesting with the pandemic. I drove down the Strip actually. What was it, about 2 weeks ago, and it's the craziest thing to drive down the Strip and see empty sidewalks, empty casinos, parking lots are empty. Really makes you think of a apocalypse movie for sure. Right. So you're just waiting for Mad Max or somebody to pop through, right? Yeah, no joke. It's pretty nuts.
What are the little dust bunny things that flying around? I mean, just like you'd see in a cartoon.
Dust bunny things?
Yeah. What are the little tumbleweeds? That's it.
Oh yeah, tumbleweeds.
Because that's what I think of in like Mad Max and all them funny movies, man. I guess if we were at the end of the world, this is what it's going to look like. Except for we need about a 3 or 4 year dust bowl to set in, and all the cars to be heavily modified. Then, right?
Oh yeah, man, for sure. I guess that's a gearhead's paradise, but yeah, man, I don't know. It's really eerie. The one thing that's been crazy for us is all the outdoor stuff is super. It's busy. I mean, there's all your running trails, all your hiking trails. They've actually been shutting stuff down around here, even stuff that's not national park, just because so many people are flocking out there because I think they're tired of being at their house.
Right. Well, people are social, man. They're and when you abruptly, kind of like we did, I know your state was an early adopter to shutting down, but people, it takes time to adjust to these things, and we have the same problem here. Our parks are still full, and
yeah,
I don't know. And I'm part of the essential workers people, so much like I'm sure you are, and
yep.
It's like they don't know distance. They just want to come talk to you. Like you can tell people are kind of lonely because I'll be on a construction site and people just come up to you and be like, "Hey, how you doing?" You're like, I'm kind of backing away. Like, look, man, I'd like to be home too. So
yeah, it's pretty interesting. Now out your way, a lot of the open land it's private, right? It's not public.
Yeah. So any big parks or anything like that are state funded camping sites and all that are still shut down.
Okay.
We don't have much federal land to kind of play around on.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. So pretty much everything outdoor wise is closed off for you guys.
Pretty much. I hate to say it, and even Walmarts here are starting to kind of get a little. You got to only allow 25 in them at a time, kind of thing, and it's strange.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
But we're not here, guys. We're not here to talk about pandemics. I mean, I'm sure y'all live this day to day. What we are here to talk about is some really kick-ass vehicles and Overland. You guys you've heard them on the podcast a few times. We've done some videos with them. Nick, for one, glad to have you on here. But let us know what got you guys into it. When I met you, I think the first time was when you were running Gone Moab.
Yes.
And what kind of led you to go? Well, from running an event. Let me just do my own kind of Overland group and go on our own adventures.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's kind of where we were at. We were I hadn't thought about Gone Moab in a while, but we were running the Gone Moab event and kind of brought Overland into it that last year that we were there. We had that Overland run, which was the first Overland run that was at the event, and really wanted to push that direction, I guess. And so right. we had stepped away from running Gone Moab and handed it off, and then really delved into the Overland community. And although Nissans are always true to our heart, we kind of we expanded well beyond just the Nissan vehicles and Nissan fan base, if you will.
Right, because for what you do, it's more about the adventure. I mean, I know you have a Nissan and you have a Tacoma and stuff, but it's more about just getting out there. And what us East Coasters don't realize is how open the land is out where you're at, and you can just kind of explore.
Yeah. We actually, I remember years ago we had somebody back when the forums were big and there was no social media per se. Besides the forums, somebody had hit us up or hit me up personally. This was before Rogue Overland. Was like, hey, we're going to be down that way. Can we jump into? Can somebody take us out and show us some stuff? We don't have. We're not going to have a rig with us, but can someone take us out? And I was like, yeah, for sure. And did one of the trails locally that I love, and it was crazy how, I mean, they were just blown away. Like, you can see for so far, because I think on the West Coast, we don't realize what it's like to have the trees in so close and so tight, and so it was mind blowing the perspective where they were just like, whoa, you can see so far, and I've never really known anything different. Right.
Yeah. Here on the East Coast, it's like what we call mountains here. Like a joke, really. Compared to, I know what you're saying is when I hit Moab for the first time, when I flew into Grand Junction, and that was just seeing that tan kind of desert and just being blown away by that, and then driving to Moab, and then all of a sudden you just like you're saying, you see forever. I guess we take it for granted about trees because I don't really see a lot of trees and stuff like that in your area.
No. Yeah, and I think it's the wheeling too. I mean, you can speak on this running an event out there and having wheeled out here. The videos I see from on the East Coast, the wheeling is so different too, just because of that terrain.
Yeah. If I could anything East Coast, if I would say it's close to kind of what Colorado has a little bit. I mean, the terrain is still different. What we call slick rock is clay mixed with rocks, and to me, it's truly slick rock. But to explore once you get to Moab, and of course further down where you're at, where I take it or I think people from Moab take it for granted because the trails never change. Like, anytime I go to a trail here, I never know what to expect. So you guys kind of, I guess, due to the weather, not having a lot of rain and stuff, the trails don't really change there?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it's the only time we get a change is after the monsoon season, and it really just comes down to, you might come to an obstacle that you got to run it a little bit different. Maybe this side's washed out now, or before this side was washed out, or a boulder might have got moved, and now you got to figure out how to get over it or around it. But yeah, we don't get like legit changing of the trails. I guess it's mild changes of the obstacles.
Right. Which is kind of cool, especially for the I will say the Moab area. The few times I've been out there, is at least you know what to expect. Like for us East Coasters, if we're going to pack to go do an exploring out there, you kind of know what to expect almost every time.
Oh yeah, yeah, I bet. Because you guys get a lot. I mean, it's different, right? Every time, like the mud holes are different, the climbs are different.
Yes, yeah. If we're at Windrock. Like I before my event, I tried to do a pre-run, and even my pre-runs are about a month before the event, and we get a lot of rain. So like I've had times where trails are just like moderate trails, for inexperienced people, they're fun, but then you get stuck in a rainstorm, and it goes from 1 to 10 like quickly.
Wow.
Yeah. Of course, I guess you guys do too, because if you get rain, like it has nowhere to go, right?
Yeah, the monsoons are crazy. The big thing with trip planning out here and with trails out here is you just have to be aware. Like if it's raining and you're going to be in any trails that are wash based, you've got to know what the weather looks like, and you can't just look up and say, oh, the sky's blue, so we're good. You have to know what the weather is for miles. I mean 20, 30 miles, because way up the wash, somewhere up in the hills, like they could be getting rain, and then next thing you know, this monsoon flood comes rolling through, and I mean it literally, you can take a dry wash bed that it'll fill up in a matter of a minute or two.
Right. Well, so the first vehicle I knew you had, and when I seen you on the forums, was it's a 2000 Xterra, is that right?
2001.
2001?
Yeah.
Oh, well, the 1 year difference. But, like, I remember following you on the forums, and I mean, obviously the pictures and stuff you guys were doing were always really cool. And then, like, you sassed, just out of nowhere, it seemed like you sassed your vehicle and, took that vehicle to the next level. But what got you kind of into the Nissan Xterra?
Oh, man. So I rebuilt a 240. I rebuilt a 240Z. I'm sorry, take that back. I am currently rebuilding a 240Z. I rebuilt a 280Z when I was a kid. And so, kid, 16, and tore it all the way down. I bought it for $400 with blown the seals on the cylinder. Was just blowing oil right by, and it was just crap. And so got it for $400, rebuilt the whole thing, and it was kind of where I got hooked. I mean, Datsun is Nissan for anybody who's not familiar. I imagine anybody listening to this is familiar, but so from there, drove that for a long time, 78 280Z, went through the engine, all the kind of basic bolt-on mods that we all did when we were younger and didn't have really any money to put into cars. Redid all the suspension, all polyurethane bushings and stuff. And I loved that car. It unfortunately got T-boned, but so I was a Nissan guy from like almost driver's license age. And when we were looking for a SUV for my wife, she wanted a Toyota 4Runner. And as we all know, the Toyotas tend to be a little more expensive than the Nissan counterparts. Right. And so the budget didn't allow it. So I said, hey, look at this Nissan Xterra. We looked at it, 30,000 miles from the original owner, and we've had it ever since. And that's kind of like how I got into Nissans, and I've just always been, like, at my heart a Nissan guy.
Well, so was there any disappointment when y'all went with Xterra versus 4Runner? Because at the time period, they were pretty. I mean, Toyota was a little more plush, I would say, the 4Runner was, but they were pretty comparable.
Oh yeah. No, she loves it now. I mean, we, knock on wood, couldn't even imagine ever not having that vehicle at this point. We have so many memories in it at this point, but she grew up in a Toyota family, so where I'm a Nissan guy, she's always been a Toyota gal, so to speak, and So she wanted the 4Runner, but knew that it was a smart choice to do the Xterra. And, the Xterra suited the needs just fine. And I don't think she ever had any regrets in buying it.
Right. So how did you end up getting your hands on this poor vehicle then?
Oh, give me a quick second here. So my how did I get a hold of it? So I guess you call it chivalry or just call it opportunity where I saw it to be able to run wild with it. It was time for her to get another vehicle. Basically, it was running pretty high on miles, and she had finished school. I had finished school, and so she actually got a Nissan Sentra Spec V, and yeah, it was a fun little car. But so that kind of opened the door for me to just go free reign on the modifications.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I remember like you had done you'd done the 3-inch lift on it initially and all that.
Yeah. So the typical way that most people go, I did the poor man lift with the crank the torsion bars, put the Calmini shackles on the back, and sliders, and I ran it like that for a long time. And then from there went to the the typical 3-inch lift. I did have the revolver shackles from AC Customizers, which I liked a lot. I had so much flex in the back, it was amazing, and or droop, I should say. And put the crawler gears in it after that, and I was running that for a long time, man, and went a lot of places, open diffs, which I really would say to people, build your vehicles up slowly. I see so many people get like the second gens and the next day they want to Titan swap them. And it's like, that's great. It's capable, but learn the rig first.
Right. Yeah, I preach the same thing.
Yeah. And so what happened was I was on Steel Bender, first year I'd ever been to Moab, maybe the second, I can't remember. But and I'm following this guy with a solid axle swap, and I'm going where he's going, but I'm working, I followed him on Steel Bender, and I think the next day he was on Hell's Revenge. And I was working so much harder on my 32-inch tires, crawler gears, and 3-inch lift to get where he was going that when I got home from Moab, I said, I got to solid axle swap this thing. And that's when I started doing the research.
Nice. Well, there's not a lot of options for solid axle swapping these things. There was either Calamini, which now I don't know if they really actually sell any of those, or it was kind of a homemade deal. What did you end up going with?
I went with I was able off of the forums, actually. I think it was the forums to get somebody else's Calmini kit used, and I would highly advise that anybody that has the capability, anytime you can get stuff used, man, you save so much money. And so I basically purchased, just unbolt the suspension off of the truck and everything that goes with it. So I got the drive shafts, I got the axles that had ARB lockers in them already. And it was a Calmini kit that was modified. The radius arm, the one radius arm mount was cut off and modified with a Jeep kit because if you really flex them a lot, they crack.
Yeah.
Or at least in some cases, let's say. So
if you put bigger tires on it, especially, they like to crack.
Yeah, and I've heard that argument that with 33s they run just fine and it's not an issue. So, but yeah, with 35s. So I never had the problem with it binding though, because it came that way. So
yeah. Well, so you took this truck, and how much different was it once you went from a SAS to from your independent? It had to be night and day, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, in two ways. The one interesting thing that was a shocker for me was I went from knowing how to drive an IFS open diff vehicle and get over stuff to saying like, oh, now how do you approach this obstacle with a solid axle swap? And in my opinion, it is different. I mean, have you had to have felt that, right? Because you went from IFS to SAS as well.
Yeah, but unfortunately, I've only got to wheel my vehicle a handful of times, and it's like I keep moving. In between moving, it sits in my driveway, and now I've got, unfortunately, in mine, I've got something binding in mine where it's causing the axle to lock up. So I'm honestly, between the 3 or 4 vehicles I seem to be modding all the time, my solid axle truck seems to be the back burner.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Well, so when you get to that point, I think you'll find it. To me, anyway, it felt a lot different. So it took me a couple times on the trail to get a feel for how would I approach this line with a solid axle swap.
Right.
It's also so much taller that it took me a little while to get used to being. I don't like off camber stuff anyway, but
was the body roll kind of hard to get used to?
Yes.
Yes, I agree. That was the first thing I noticed when I did mine. I was like, you feel like you're about to tip over, and the truck's nowhere close to being tippy, but the off camber stuff really messes with you.
Yeah. Hang on real quick. Yeah, so it does. And I remember the first obstacle I was on, my friends threw me to the wolves, and I ended up on like a pretty rough gatekeeper, pretty much right off the pavement, but of the first time I wheeled it. But yeah, the body roll is just, it took a lot for me to get used to, where the torsion bars and everything feel a lot more stable, and you're not going to roll, and I've gotten a lot more comfortable with it, but it is definitely, it takes a little getting used to.
Right. Yeah, that was, I will say, the first trail I put it on, there was a washout on the trail, and of course you look down to your left, it's like a couple 100-foot drop, and of course it was raining, and I was like, and I'm leading the trail, and I'm just like, well, you can't show fear. You got to be, as a trail leader, you're like, you've got to be confident and just like, we're going to get through this together, and hang on.
Yep. That's great.
Yeah. But yeah, I went from, like you, I went from 33s to 35s, which in general, it was like a whole different, like the way, you don't realize what a taller tire like that changes the truck, let alone, the solid axle part.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we wheel with, just in our corral, I mean, we have everything from, I think it's a 32 is the smallest tire we have, to, I think 35. I don't think Schulte's run 37, so I think it's 35. And just seeing the difference in sometimes the approach on an obstacle with that 32-inch tire versus a 35 or a 34, right. It's significant. There's no question. Right.
Well, I know me and Luke, we wore a windrock when Luke lived in Nashville here. We wore a windrock out, and we used to say, I have so much fun independent suspension. I'm never why would I want to go solid axle until you keep breaking things, and then once you go solid axle, you're like, oh, well, this is why you spent this money.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, now though, for our older Xterras, the kit's worth more than the vehicles are, really.
Oh my gosh! When I was deciding, I of course did the conversation of, this was when the Total Chaos still had a kit available for it. I was deciding between long travel, lockers front and back, and of course the solid axle swap. And yeah, man, that's what, besides the fact that kit is just a lot, that's what pushed me to the solid axle, is you're a lot more bulletproof at that point. You're not going to break stuff.
Well, and unfortunately for us Nissan people, you put a Jeep axle under it and everything suddenly gets a lot cheaper for that axle too.
That's so true. Oh man, that's so true.
Even though it's a Dana 44 out of a Wagoneer generally.
Yep.
Gearing is so much cheaper. Just hubs, everything about that is so much cheaper.
Yeah, it's no joke. The one thing that was kind of a pain for me is I had my tools totally set up with everything that I needed for the truck, and then having some standard, although some of those bolts are metric, but having some standard stuff, now I was like, I got to modify my toolkit that I wheel with. So.
Well, I imagine, because I can see that, because did you change the rear axle too then, or?
No, I'm running the factory okay. Rear axle.
Okay. So are you fully locked now, or is it just front?
I am locked front and back with the crawler gears and the transfer case.
Okay. So you took this Xterra to the Rubicon, man. And have y'all done it twice or just once?
Yeah, twice now. So we did. Sorry. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
Yeah. So we did it once with. Let me finish this text here real quick. We did it once with. We called it. What did we call it? We called it NizCon. I think it was 2016, and it was some guys off of the Frontier forums. Mm-hmm. So we had was it Chris? I forget his last name. I think it starts with B. Chema was there. We had Sean Trutman.
Jen Bachman, I think.
Jen, that's right, who is a phenomenal driver. Oh my God, she's a great driver. And
she came right. She flew right from there basically to Windrock to hang out with us, man.
Yeah, that's right.
Like you had amazing stories to tell of this trip.
Yeah. Oh, it was so much fun. But we her, and then it was myself and Andrew, who he used to have the Pro 4X on the 35s, Titan swapped, and. Yeah. Man, it was a blast. So we ran it that year, and with those rigs, I mean, it was a learning lesson. We only had I think it was 2 brakes, as I recall, on the Frontiers. You know, with the Titan swap, the CV axles tend to go. So we had 2 CV axles go, and just an awesome time. And so many people, you know. I mean, basically in Jeeps most of the time, you know, I hate to say that, but we're like, are you guys really going to take those, you know, those Nissans? And yeah, we ran it, and it was a blast. And then 2 years later, Nick Schulte was getting moved from Las Vegas. He's in the Air Force. He was getting moved, and he was like, man, I'm going to be moving further away from Rubicon. I got to do it before we go. And, you know, when your buddy says that, you say, hell yeah, you do. So him, myself, a buddy of ours, Ron, that has a Jeep on 37s, also a phenomenal driver. We took Little Black Toyota and Chris Meisner from Toy Tech Lifts. And, yeah, we all ran it, and it was a blast.
Well, and Chris with Nistech, he had some problems that year, right?
Well, so this was his redemption run. The year before was when he went and he had the big break.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he got that fixed, and then this was his redemption run. So he didn't have, I mean, he did great. You know, I mean, we all got hung up here and there, but we all made it through. Sure. No breaks. Everybody did fine.
So when you, knowing you guys with Rogue, like you guys plan like no crew I've ever seen. So what was the kind of planning with the Rubicon? Because there was a lot of unknowns for you guys, right?
Yeah. So the nice thing about the first time we did it is that with Jen up there and Chema's up that way somewhere, as I recall, we had some, I guess, people familiar with the area, although none of us had run it. And so right. I did kind of my typical thing and just went nutty on the internet and found as much info as I could. And Leland, who was riding with Sean, he had got a hold of some tracks. And so with all of that, I mean, I would say it probably was the one of the lesser prepared we were for trips. So we basically, you know, we knew it was going to be hard. We knew that it would be a crunch, but we were going to try and get it done in 3 days. And we delegated who was bringing what spare stuff and liquids and things like that. Tried to minimize the weight on the rigs, and we just, man, we kind of went for it. And
right, and really, like your Xterra was like, it was ideally built for this, right?
Yeah. It's funny you say that because my son, I have a 5-year-old, and he's starting to learn stuff, and he's interested in the trucks, and he always asks me like, Dad, the Xterra is not built for going fast, right? Because one of the Rogue guys, Sean with the FJ, like his FJ is phenomenally built. You guys should check out that walk around video if you've never seen it. It's on our YouTube channel. But But I mean, man, he's got the long travel on it and stuff, and so that thing can just cook through the desert, and it's soaking stuff up. But my son will always be like, the Xterra is not made for going fast, right? And I'm like, well, no, not really. It's made for going over stuff. And so yeah, it's the X was built before. I mean, we always camped, but it was built before we were doing these long, overland trips.
Right.
And so yeah, it's a rock crawler. I mean, it's designed to rock crawl, and we just camp out of it sometimes, really.
Well, would you, since there is such a big difference in handling and everything out of the solid axle versus independent, had you known that you were going to get into overlanding so hard, would you have done the swap?
Okay. I would have, because I would have. But what I would advise people of is really do a hard think to yourself about what kind of trails you're going to be on. Because if you're going to infrequently be on more technical trails, and you're going to more frequently lean towards the overlanding, and you're trying to get out to great places, and the trails are going to be moderate, your IFS with crawler gears and maybe one locker will get you where you need to be just fine, and you're going to be way more comfortable on the road.
Oh, God, yes.
Yeah, I actually just ordered the anti-rock kit from Chris at Niztec, because I'm just like, I got to try and control some of this body roll,
Right, and I've heard that once Cody, he swapped his, and I actually had sold it to him because I never installed it. He's like, it's night and day difference the way handling is.
Yeah, no question at all. So I push hard, and that's why in hindsight I would have still done the solid axle swap. But I, of course, there's people that wheel much more aggressively than me in the Nissan community, so I'm by no means trying to say anything on that. I just, in general, I like the harder trails. So yeah, if you're not going to be doing the really hard stuff, you're not going to be on your armor, just push in, then stay IFS. Get big tires, get lockers, get a crawler gear if you're a first gen, and you'll do just fine.
Right. Well, so with Rogue, you guys obviously you're not just Nissan oriented, but there are a couple in your crew, right?
Yeah. There's what is it? There's 4 of us.
And Alex has he's got a Gen 1.5, right?
Correct. Rogue Overland. His rig is a very well built. Hang on, I'm getting some feedback here. It's a very well built first 1.5 gen. It's basically my old truck. It has a 3-inch lift. He's got a locker in the front, 32-inch tires, all armored up, and that truck will go on plenty of trails for where he wants to get. When we went to Big Bear last summer, he ran Holcomb Creek. He ran Gold Mountain, which we have a video review on YouTube. You can see the kind of stuff his truck got up. And the only one he sat out on was John Bull. So it'll do what you want it to do just fine. And it's a moderate build. He still is very comfortable on the highway with it.
Right. And I know there's a green 2nd gen maybe, and I've seen a couple of Nissans in your crew.
Yeah, so the Rogue Overland, the 5 of us that are running it is Alex, myself, Sean with the FJ, Little Black Toyota is Mike's, and then you have Nick Schulte with the Sass Xterra. Mm-hmm. And kind of our rule, because there's so many pages out there that are just repost people, which is fine. I'm not speaking against that or anything, but that's not like our cup of tea. So any other rigs that you see out there in our feed are people who have been on trips with us. So yeah, I mean, we have Oliver's got a 1st gen with the red stripe on the side. Johan's got the green Xterra, which we actually just solid axle swapped Titan swapped a month ago.
I was like, man,
Yeah. No. And so anybody who's been on a trip with us and we snapped a photo of and they were comfortable with it, we threw their truck on the feed. But we do have a good Nissan group in Las Vegas. I mean, there's a lot of Nissans in this area. Silver State Nissans, they have a lot, primarily Frontiers, but there's some Xterras there too. And you can get a group of 10 Xterras out in the kind of Nevada, Vegas area pretty easily.
Right. Well, so let's see. Last November, we all got to hook up because we did the Titan adventure, and this was kind of new to you because I remember Nissan was asking me, hey, we want some to recommend some people, and I was like, dude, the road crew they drive Nissans. I mean, they drive everything, but they don't have a full-size truck, and I want to see these guys start getting into full-size vehicles a little bit. So they flew us all into Salt Lake, man. How was, because we really haven't got to catch up since. How was your experience at the Titan Adventure? Because I know you did a video on it that did really well.
Yeah, the Titan Adventure was a cool experience for us. As most people know that have seen our stuff or if have listened to us talk with you, we do a lot of gear reviews. Adventure videos, things like that. We're trying to get information out, inspire people, but also have information so that if you're looking at a piece of gear or something, you can watch a review and decide if it's going to be a good piece for you or not. So we had done a fair amount of that. We do a ton of work with Bubba Rope, making product videos for them, and also we had an opportunity to do represent them on a trip with Four Wheeler Magazine, and so we had started to get into some of that stuff, but never experienced anything like the Titan Adventure. That was pretty amazing in the sense that, just getting to drive brand new trucks is a cool experience, and then they took care of us. It was a great time.
Yeah, we really roughed it on that trip.
Yeah, no joke.
And for those that don't know, like I said, Nick has a. What do you remember the title of that video you guys did?
Oh, you know what? I don't off the top of my head. Let me see if I can find it real quick.
And you've seen us. You've seen our Titan Adventure stuff. So you can see how rough that trip was. And by no means is that trying to throw it in anybody's face. It was just Nissan. They were bringing dealers out. They were bringing press out, and then they wanted some social media people out. And it was a first class event, man. And it was, what was cool to me was they give you the Pro 4X, those tan Pro 4Xs, and we didn't go hardcore wheeling.
No.
But if you ran it through a tree to scratch the paint, I never heard of the first person going, "Hey, man, you got to be gentle with these vehicles."
Yeah, it was. I mean, they were letting us drive them. I'll agree with you that it was loosely call it wheeling.
Yes.
But let me see real quick and see if we've got the one is the 2020 Nissan Titan review, and then the other one was a Titan Adventure with Nissan USA.
Yeah.
And I'd like to comment on what you said. Not throwing anybody's face. We had a comment on one of the videos, and it was like, why are you guys throwing this up there just to showboat? So I don't remember what the comment was, but it's at least from us, and I'm sure it's the same with you. Nothing that we ever put up is in any way trying to make anybody feel bad. If anything, what we're trying to do is just inspire people to move forward with whatever it is that you're trying to do in the outdoor community.
Right, and I take the videos from the approach of I want you to feel like you got to experience it with us a little bit. And definitely my first Titan video, my Titan Adventure video was like that, of just kind of showing just a little bit of each day. But yeah, by no means, I feel very fortunate that I get invited to things like that. So by no means am I ever trying to rub it in anybody's face.
Right. Yeah, not at all.
But and that was a quick trip though too. What, we were there 2.5 days maybe?
Yeah, that it was. Would they fly us in? Was it Friday morning and flew us out Sunday morning or something along those lines?
Yeah. And unfortunately, I just had shoulder surgery, so my flights were really fun.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
But I'll never my adventure of that trip was flying home. So we flew direct from Nashville. Me and a buddy that got to go, we flew direct from Nashville, and I was like, cool, man. And I didn't even think about my flight back. And they routed me from Salt Lake to Minneapolis to Nashville. And like, you always think of the big beer drinker, cheesehead people of like, you always see their big cartoon characters, kind of overweight just a little bit. I got on that plane and I was like, holy crap, there is no joke about this. Like, and I was in the middle row, and these two older nice ladies, they were just super nice, but I was like stuck in between, just like my shoulder was killing me, and I was just like, why didn't I could have adjusted this flight, and I just didn't do it.
Right.
But no, that adventure was fun. And what was your impression of that Titan?
Hang on, I'm just getting some power here. All right, what was my impression of what?
The 2020 Titan.
Well,
you've had some time to reflect on it now.
Yeah, I have. So, as you commented on earlier, I'm not a full-size truck guy, but I've been around trucks my whole life. And once upon a time had a K5 Blazer with 1 ton swapped under it. And so I've got some experience. And the biggest thing that I took away from those trucks is just, man, it always keeps coming back to me is comfort. I mean, it is so nice inside and has so many creature comforts. If I wanted to throw my kids in there and I wanted to go road trip, I could do it. If I wanted to tow my boat down to go, well, if I had a boat, to go wakeboarding, I could do it. And if I wanted to throw probably some little aggressive tires on it, lift it up just a little bit, and I wanted to wheel, moderate trails, it would do it without much issue. And so to me, it's the comfort and the versatility of it if you're okay with a full-size truck.
Right. Yeah, when I leased mine, it wasn't the outside of the vehicle that sold me on it. I mean, obviously it's the V8 power, that's really nice, but it was like once you sit in one of these trucks, you're just like, wow, this is and I literally, we drove, so me and Holden drove he drove from Atlanta to Nashville here, and then we drove to Phoenix. And I never was worn out by riding in the Titans, man. I was very surprised that some of the vehicles I've done a couple 100 miles and you're just ready to get out of them. But I will say, to me, the Titan is very comfortable. So you and Alex, you guys got to go out there. Of course, you guys got to do horseback riding. Like they kind of switched it up. Everybody kind of got to choose a little bit of adventures. And Danny and Jim Bob, they went fishing, and you guys went horseback riding.
Yeah.
What brings us up is the picture. There's a picture of you guys just smiling, like, and you've got the cowboy sort of gear on, and it just cracks me up every time I see this picture.
Yeah. So a funny thing about me that most people I would say I guess don't know is, I mean I grew up in the country, and of course there's different definitions of country, but I grew up in the country, and I had my time riding and roping and riding steers and stuff like that. So all my good friends that know me for a long time, they call me, I'm not sure if we can swear on this or not. So they call me like crap kicker,
Yeah.
So when we were going up there to do this, I'm like, all right, I've fished before and it's just not really my thing. I'll sit with my buddies while they fish and I'll drink beer, but I'm just not a big fisherman. And so I'm like, all right, yeah, let's do some horse riding. And Alex never been on a horse in his life. And we show up to the arena for doing this. And first off, the ladies instructing us are all very attractive. And so here we are, we're riding, we're hanging out with attractive girls. And Alex is just doing his best to act like he's not, just totally out of his comfort zone, given who the instructors are. So it was pretty funny.
Well, and Alex sometimes hides his awkwardness a little bit, but sometimes Alex, I love him to death, but sometimes his awkwardness pops through, man.
That's the truth. Boy, that is the truth, yeah.
I was trying to interview Alex. I forget where we were going, And every once in a while, I'll have my little digital recorder with me, and I had gold with Alex, man. Like, we had a good back and forth, and I looked down and I never hit record, and I was just like, oh my god, it was classic Alex and just his quirkiness, and it was gonna be gold, and I just unfortunately lost that one. But so you guys, I know you and Danny was with on your winter trip, and I was hoping to get out there, and just unfortunately I had to choose either cover the Chicago Auto Show, and I knew Nissan was about to drop something with Frontier, or it was go on y'all's trip. And Danny went out there with you guys, and man, it looks like y'all had a cold, fun time.
Oh man, yeah, we gosh, we're always trying to get better, and so what we did after this trip was we put out a survey to everybody that went, and that was like the unanimous things we could work on is pick better weather. And so what we had decided, and we let everybody on the trip know, is that going forward, we're not going to do the Rogue Overland Winter Expedition and then in the summer do the Rogue Overland Summer Expedition. We're just going to do what we call the Rogue Overland Expedition, and we can pick any time of year we want based on where we're going, because we saw some amazing places. We camped in some amazing places, but we froze our butts off just about every night. I think one night the weather was pretty comfortable. Besides that, it was everyone around the fire, and as soon as the fire died down, everybody was in bed.
Well, how did SoCal Danny handle that? Because I was telling Danny beforehand, I was like, look, man, they make these little hot hands. I said I took them on my rogue adventure when I went out, and I was always comfortable at night. And Danny came to the East Coast one time in just basically a T-shirt, and we got him in the hills of Tennessee, and it was like 43 degrees, and he was over shivering, and just like SoCal life there, I don't think is cut out always for the cold weather, right?
No, not so much. I mean, he did pretty good. He was geared up, and as I recall, and he was doing all right. But man, it was. I mean, everybody was huddled around the fire. Like, if you didn't have a spot on the fire, especially the last night, we don't usually do campsites, but because of where we needed to be to set up for the next trip, we were at a campsite, and we were basically on the top of Zion. So we had wheeled in the snow that day, and camp had snow on the ground. It was cold, and that particular night, I mean, if you were not right on the fire ring, you were dying. Like, you can see it. I don't think you guys have released it yet, but when the footage, or maybe it did just drop, when the footage gets released of Danny doing the interviews with the GoPro, you can probably see it. I'm shivering in the photo because we were like 10 feet off of the fire.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. But those are the adventure, though. Like, anybody, like, if they go out with you during the summer, man, yeah, you're comfortable, or it might be a little hot, but it's not just like overlanding is just not about proving your vehicle. It's about proving, are you tough enough to kind of handle all the elements?
Yeah, we always call those days gear testing days, right? Because when it's 60 degrees out and it's beautiful, and you're, I don't know, down outside of Phoenix or something in November, yeah, all your gear is fantastic because everything's awesome. But when you're at, when it's raining on you, when it's cold, when it's snowing on you, whatever it might be, like, that's when you realize what gear works and what setups that you have maybe aren't the best.
Right. Yeah, unfortunately, my gears, my sleeping bags aren't rated for cold weather. I've kind of given up that. It seems like once I got out of the Boy Scouts and all that, I was just like, you know what? I did that. I got the badge for it, and I'm kind of done with it.
Right.
But I will say, when I flew out there, what was it, 17, I think, when we went through Black Bear and all that.
Yeah.
When we drove up from Vegas, and the first night we camped in, I remember it was like 1 at night. We go down, like, for me, the first chance of really being out where there's no light pollution, you get to see all these stars and stuff. And I remember just kind of rushing. Everybody was rushing to get their tents set up and everything. And I was like, holy cow, man, this is like the middle of nowhere. Where have they taken us? And then you wake up in the morning and you're like, you see forever, like miles and miles you can see. And we were kind of up on a hill a little bit and didn't realize we drove by waterfalls and all these cool things. And like, if you get a chance, if you're in one of the areas that the road guys are going, sign up if you can, man. Try to get one of those elusive spots to hang out with these guys, because for one, like, you guys now are my benchmark of trip planning. Like, there's no way I will ever reach anywhere close to the planning that you guys do. And, you know, I remember it being cold in Utah when we camped there that night. But then I remember we were in, was it Silverton, where we camped the next night at some old mine. Yep. And that night was cold. Because Silverton's 10,000 feet, something like that.
Oh man, yeah, it's up there. It is up there. Yeah, that was the night that we had where that river was running by us, right?
It was an old abandoned mine.
Yeah,
that they turned to sort of a campground.
Yep. Yeah, and then right across the road there was a river down there. Yeah, it's man, that was cold. Yeah. The elevation it's a crazy thing, you know, because when we first started planning this, it took us a while to realize, like, you got to be paying attention to time of year, elevation, potential weather. So, like, for me, in my brain, when I'm looking at stuff, if you start talking about anything above, say, 5,000 feet, 6,000 feet, then to me, that's a summertime trip.
Well, and that trip, too, had to be a little hard to plan because it was August. So in Vegas, it's still 100 degrees or plus. Utah is still pretty warm. You know, I know at night it cools down. But then we were getting into the mountains of Colorado. So it was like a 2.5 season trip all in like a week.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that's the hardest thing really with planning these trips is, you know, you're going to spend all this time, like the trip we just did to the Four Corners area, you're going to spend all this time getting to the start point, and then you want to see everything. But one, you can only see so much stuff in so much time. I mean, that's obvious. But the thing a lot of people don't factor in is once you take a group beyond, say, 3 people, you start to exponentially be less efficient, and so you can cover less ground as you add more people to your group size. And so that's a big deal when you're planning trips.
Well, then you had some big deals with you, man. Besides Danny, you guys had Bobby with CVT, and you had a bunch of cool people there.
Oh yeah, yep. We've had Bobby with CVT. We had we've had Bubba Rope out with us. We've had Goose Gear out of SoCal. If you guys are looking for any storage solutions for your vehicle or like backseat deletes for sleeping platforms, they're pretty amazing. And yeah, so it's a lot of fun. I think for me, I've truly enjoyed how this has opened doors to make relationships with people.
Right.
I mean, that's where it's at. It's the relationships and the time that you can spend with people.
When I say that a lot on the podcast, I say that there's probably nowhere in America that I couldn't, if I needed a couch to go sleep on for a night, if I was traveling somewhere, like, that's some of the cool things, you know, obviously with overlanding and all that brings in a whole different group of people, but it all boils down for me, like, the reason I met you was through Nissan. The reason I met Danny was because of Nissan. Yep. And whether it be, you know, like the older Xterras that we own or somebody buying the newer Frontiers or whatever, it's amazing, like, when somebody sits down to design one of these vehicles, that probably never crosses their mind of, hey, this vehicle is going to change people's lives.
Right. Yeah, I think that, well, you know, I'm sure for certain people in a motor company, that's the drive, and because of how business works, there's a lot of people where it's just numbers, but it's so true. I mean, you take this thing that just gets you places, and it's amazing how it will affect people. I mean, we've had people message us on Instagram and say, oh my gosh, like, this thing that you guys did or whatever, it inspired me to go do this thing that I wasn't going to do before. And so it's the way that the products that cause positive impact on society.
Right. Right. Yeah, and oh gosh, I lost my thought. At the end of the day, like Nissan is a car company. All they care about is they want to sell new steel. That's it at the end of the day. But through the Titan adventures, where you got to meet like Wendy Orthman, who used to be with Nissan, and you got to meet like David Page with Fluid Peak, and these people like. These are people we would have never got to meet had it not been for just buying a silly brand car.
Right. It's so true.
That always trips me out when I'll sit and kind of reflect on a trip or something that I went to, or like me doing Went. Went was inspired because of Gone, and I wanted something on the East Coast, sort of, and like all these people that I've met, it all comes down to me. For one, it was Nissan, and then really the Xterra. Like one day maybe we'll get another one, but and then now moving on to Frontier and Titan, and of course I have the Juke, which I know nobody loves my Juke, but I still do. Yeah. But at the end of the day, man, it's the friendships we've made because of Nissan. It really boggles my mind.
I agree 100%. It's man, it's just like I said, it's amazing. I mean, the people that you treat. I'm just having a little text here on the chat where let's see, Hard Enduro says, I'm always the only Nissan on the trails, but I love it. And it kind of goes with what you and I are saying. I think it's cool because being out there in a Nissan, of course, if you're with your Nissan people and other the people that you've met in the Nissan community, then there's that bond you have. But to be out and to run into a Land Cruiser guy or run into a Jeep guy, and they're like, "What is that?" And you're like, "Oh, well, it's a Nissan Xterra," and then it opens the door to like have a conversation because you're not rolling down the trail in just another Jeep.
Yeah, and I will say I've went to Windrock Park many times, and you'll go in. There's always the little crews camping together, and there'll be the Jeep crew camping together. And I remember bringing in 4 or 5 Xterras following me one night, and you could see their heads just swing around like, "What are you doing here?" Like, and then I remember taking a group to Windrock, and I want to say it was 2011. And these guys they'd done wheeling at a place in Indiana called Redbird. And, it was kind of, you get mud and maybe there's a couple of hill climbs, but nothing really extreme. And I remember taking these guys over a bridge, just an old wooden rankety bridge, just to get to the trail. And I stopped to let the group catch up. And these guys got out of their cars and they were like, "I can't believe this truck did this." And I was like, "Did what?" He was like, I said, "I'm not even in 2-wheel drive yet." And he's like, "Really?" I said, "I'm still in 2-wheel drive."
2-wheel drive, yeah.
And he was like, "I just thought this was for Jeeps." And I was like, "Man, 4-wheel drive is 4-wheel drive, guys. Like, yeah, the Jeep has the old school system, but at the end of the day, we've got the Bronco coming out.
Oh.
There's going to be a whole new crowd for Bronco. I'm sure one of your crew is itching to go buy a Bronco. Probably you.
Dude, those things are so beautiful. I really think they are.
They are. And I'm happy to see somebody take on Jeep. Jeep sells a ton of them, and clearly you got to wheel with a Gladiator. I don't think the Gladiator's been the hit that Jeep thought it was going to be, but now Jeep's going to have to really innovate with Ford getting in the game.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice. Competition for us as the consumer, competition is good because it makes companies push forward. It's like the Toyota Tacoma, and as you know, I mean, we have a 3rd-gen Tacoma, and I laugh at some of the things on that truck where I'm like, "Are you kidding me? This is like early 2000 technology on a 2017 truck. Why do I have drum brakes in the rear?"
And Toyota, they take so much crap. My buddy Tim with Pickup Trucks SUV he would have loved this one because Toyota takes such garbage for those drum brakes in the back of that truck.
Oh yeah, and and there's other things on it too that aren't coming to mind at the moment, but I'll be wrenching on it, and I'm like, "What in the is that?" And so a Toyota does a lot of things right, but if no one's challenging well enough in that market, then they can do that. They can sit and be stagnant or do a small change and throw a crap engine in it and say, "Oh, it's now it's the 3rd-gen Tacoma." So we want that. I mean, the more players in the game per se, that means that it's just going to be better products for us as consumers.
Well, and Nissan has it's no secret they have a 2021 Frontier all redesigned, and I know there was a roundtable with some people going, well, it's not complete redesign. Yeah, the frame of the truck is not going to change, because how often does a frame really need to? There's not a lot of innovation. There's different steels you can use, but
right.
So the press have loved to beat up Nissan anyways, but they found this frame issue. They're like, oh, you're not completely changing it. But if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yeah, for wheelers like us, there's a couple things on the newer gen trucks that, like the bucket contact and some things. But other than that, as long as the 4-wheel drive works, there's a locker in the rear of it. I'm gonna be happy. And I know, like the Toyota, yeah, like you guys, for that truck, the engine was like kind of a downgrade versus the old 4-liter it had. But at the end of the day, they sell a ton of it. They sell enough of those trucks, and even Nissan sold enough trucks that made Ford and these other guys go, oh crap, we got to get back in that. We got to be players in that market again.
Yeah, and I know you follow those numbers and a lot more than I do. But yeah, I mean, I get it when they're moving product, and if they don't have to change it, they don't have to change it. But yeah, I would like to see. I'm definitely excited for the Bronco to see what it presents, and it was great to see the ZR2 come on, whether you like Chevy or not. I mean, somebody giving you lockers front and back besides a Jeep Wrangler is, I mean, it's awesome. It's another step in the right direction.
And I think the Bronco is going to have to compete. They're going to, and there's been talk of them doing a kind of Rubicon version. I definitely think if Bronco gets front and rear lockers, Nissan and everybody else are going to have to follow along with their off-road package.
Yeah.
I mean, because you got to be a player in that, and then if the Bronco gets it, at some point Ranger's probably going to get it because they're based on the same thing. And
right.
Anyways, I can talk about that all day. It's a Nissan show. But so as we wrap this thing up, Nick, what you guys do? What 3 or 4 big adventures a year?
Yeah, so yes, when we started, we were doing 3 or 4. We have we've had more obligations within the off-road community that and I mean, I've said it before on all our videos and stuff, that this isn't a full-time thing for us. This is a passion, side hustle, if you will. And so most of the time we're working on this stuff at 4 o'clock in the morning, or we're working on this stuff at 10 o'clock at night. So we love the runs with groups, absolutely. And we love being out there with people and seeing their rigs. We've got a couple things we're going to try. The COVID thing is slowing it down, but we got a couple things we're going to try with, like meetups with us in areas where maybe instead of a big trip, it's going to be grab a trail and do one night of camping or something. But yeah, the big trips are going to probably shift down to 1 to 2 a year, because we are having a lot of obligations with some of the companies that we work with, and that's eating up a lot of our time.
Right. So who are, as we close this out, who are some of the companies you that kind of back you guys?
Oh man, I hope I don't miss anybody. I mean, Cascadia Vehicle Tents, Goose Gear, Tembo Tusk, the Perfect Bungee. I always tell people, like, you don't know you need a perfect bungee until you have one. They're amazing. Niztec, Toy Tech Lifts, White Knuckle Off Road. Oh, I'm gonna hang on. Method Wheels, Method Race Wheels. We just released a review video actually of the Method Race Wheels.
And he took and scratched those up right away, man.
Right away. That's what you have to do with those if you're gonna get one. But yeah, with their bead grip technology. So give that video a check out on the YouTube channel. And remember to, like, and same for when you're watching the Nissan Nation podcast videos, you guys, the algorithm is an animal. So like that video, subscribe, share it, hit the bell button, make a comment. All those things that you do help YouTube grab that video more, so that we can get it out to more people like yourselves who are interested in that information.
And by no means are we getting rich doing these videos. I can tell you. No. We get a couple million followers, and then we're okay. But I think especially where we're at right now, the $2 a day I make on a video is not covering much.
Oh my gosh! When you and I were talking before, and you had said something about trying to cover costs. It's like I don't even if I even have my investment into camera gear back, I would be surprised.
Yeah, and for you guys, because you guys do high-end videos, so yeah, it's like you've got to stay up on technology, and now 4K is everything, and even though I don't think YouTube can really handle 4K, like if you're not promoting 4K now, people don't want to watch your videos, and of course your scenery stuff too, so you've got to have the best image, and then you're competing, right or wrong, you're competing with other Overland groups out there who do it either better than we do or not as good as we do. But you're still competing with attention. And like you said, if Google doesn't recognize or YouTube doesn't recognize within the first day, basically, that people are picking up on your video, they hide it, basically. It goes away. And unless something makes it viral again, forget it. And then you're not recouping, money that you spent on gear.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing, since we're here and we're trying to keep people inspired. We're trying to get information out there. And yes, we get some of the gear we do reviews on sent to us, but we buy a lot of it too. So it's super helpful if you like seeing those videos and you want to see more, and it doesn't cost you anything to just hit that subscribe, hit that like button, and it makes a big difference for us as content creators. It helps. Right.
Well, Nick, it's been fun talking to you. This is just right at an hour, it looks like. And any other shout-outs we need to do while we got you on here?
Oh, no, man. I think, I think we got it all. Give me half a second here, and let me just check.
Danny wanted you to tell the polar plunge story.
Yes, that is a good polar plunge story. All right. So... I forgot to mention Shift Pod and Arizona Xterra Club. What's that?
I said I'm totally jealous of those Shift Pods.
Dude, we gotta if I can ever get my butt out to your event, I'll bring one, and you got to check it out. They're really cool. Arizona Xterra Club as well has done a little bit to help us out. They're great, very organized group. So anyway, yes, polar plunge. So we are camping at outside of Page, Arizona on Lake Mead, I believe it was. We were supposed to be at Alstrom Point, but rain had come in, and the road they say it's impassable with rain. I'm sure we would have made it, but it would have been a mess. We'd have tore the trail up, and of course, tread lightly and all that. So we opted for Plan B. We found a campsite, and so we're camping on the beach. It's like raining on us. We're around this campfire. Everything's amazing. It was so much fun. And I don't know who comes up with it. There may have been some alcohol involved. I don't know who comes up with it, but they decide, let's go jump into Lake Mead. It's rainy, cold. It's 10 o'clock at night. Yes, this is a good idea. So somebody has video of it, but basically, I want to say about 7 or 8 people stripped down to skivvies and went and did what Groot has called the first inaugural Rogue Overland Polar Plunge. And yeah, man, so we all went swimming at 10 o'clock at night, froze our butts off, but really cool memory.
Right. Oh, and that's what this is all about, man. So. Bunch of comments on here. We'll have to go back through later and read those and try to answer them. But
yeah, I've been trying to keep
Marty up. There, he ordered one of your COVID safety masks.
Yes.
So if you need something to feel safe, I know Rogue has these things. So
that's right.
You can feel safe in these scary times. So.
Yep. And those are made in America. That's Blackstrap Industries. We do our best to keep everything that we can made in America, and supporting small business if you get one of those.
Nice. Well, dude, it's been an honor to have you on here, and maybe we can hook up down the road and see what Rogue is up to, and hopefully you get your stream. Like, I want to inspire you. These are so much fun to do, and Rogue has to start doing at least a monthly stream, man.
Yeah, this has been a good time.
Old man Alex on these.
What's that?
And you got to get old man Alex on these because he's gold. He would be YouTube gold.
Yeah. But yeah, man, thanks for having me on. Absolutely. Thanks for pushing me out of the comfort zone. And this is the first live stream for us, so we might have to make it a habit.
Hey, and you have a discount code for these stuff right now.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, it is. I believe it's COVID-19. Let me give me 2 seconds and I can confirm here.
It is COVID-19. Danny texted me and he had to remind me that.
Yep, COVID-19. It is, and I think COVID is all caps. It is all the entire website, so it's 19% off anything you buy on the website. Nice.
And if hit them up, guys, I'm sure they have an email in there. If for some reason that doesn't work out, well, I'm sure they'll get you the right code. But
yeah,
dude, it's been an honor to have you on here, and I can't wait till we get to adventure again together. And Danny kills me because he's closer to you guys than I am. But it's been a blast, man.
All right, good times, dude. We'll talk next time.
All right.
Take it easy, guys. Thanks for watching.
Now, can I end this right? There it is.